Change the music up. Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Sunday morning. Come over here. Say what's up. Say, hey, I'm Azrael. I'm Tonk. Yeah, we're going to read about some Dungeons and Dragons, good sir. We got to start you young. Hold on, I'm not there yet. I'm going to change the music up. Hopefully I don't get copyright in trouble, because that tends to happen to me lately more and more. But we'll go from here and see what happens with this. Okay. Hey, what the heck is stuck under my wheel? It's Baby Book. Billy's Big Day. What's under that back wheel? Paper. All right. So let's start reading about race in Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, 5th edition. So we're going to read the little brief introduction so you get an idea. And then we're going to learn about the dwarf. So, a visit to one of the great cities in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, Waterdeep, the free city of Greyhawk, or even uncanny Sigil, the city of doors overwhelms the senses. Voices chatter in countless different languages. The smells of cooking in dozens of different cuisines mingle with the odors of crowded streets and poor sensation. Buildings in a myriad architectural styles displayed the diverse origin of their inhabitants. And the people themselves, people of varying size, shape, color, dressed in a dazzling spectrum of styles and hues, represent many different races, from diminutive halflings and stout dwarfs to majestically beautiful elves, mingling among a variety of human ethnicities. Scattered among the members of these more common races are the true exotics, a hulking dragonborn here, pushing his way through the crowd, and a sly tiefling there, lurking in the shadows with mischief in her eyes. A group of gnomes laugh as one of them activates a clever wooden toy that moves off its own accord, of its own accord. Half-elves and half-orcs live and work alongside humans, without fully belonging to the race of either of their parents. And there, well out of the sunlight, is a lone drow, a fugitive from the subterranean expanse of the Underdark, trying to make his way in a world that fears his kind. Drows are fun to play. I think when I do get to play again this time through, I think I'm going to try to make a tiefling. I've never done a tiefling. I think I want to do a tiefling monk and kind of use characters like Akuma as my archetype, like that kind of angry martial artist demon dude. So why we go about race in D&D? Choosing a race. Humans are the most common people in the worlds of D&D, but they live and work alongside dwarves, elves, and halflings, and countless other fantastic species. Your character belongs to one of these peoples. Not every intelligent race of the multiverse is appropriate for a player-controlled adventurer. Dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans are the most common races to produce the sort of adventurers who make up typical parties. Dragonborns, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, and tieflings are less common as adventurers. Drow, a subrace of elves, are also uncommon. Your choice of race affects many different aspects of your character. It establishes fundamental qualities that exist throughout your character's adventuring career. When making this decision, keep in mind the kind of character you want to play. For example, a halfling could be a good choice for a sneaky rogue. A dwarf makes a tough warrior, and an elf can be a master of arcane magic. Your character race not only affects your ability scores and traits, but also provides the cues for building your character's story. Every race's description in this chapter includes information to help you roleplay a character of that race, including personality, physical appearance, features of society, and racial alignment tendencies. These details are suggestive to help you think about your character. Adventurers can deviate widely from the norm for their race. It is worthwhile to consider why your character is different as a helpful way to think about your character's background and personality. So racial traits real quick, the meta jargon in D&D. Hold on, my hair looks crazy. I gotta cut the sides off and do something with it. There we go. Okay. So, racial traits. The description of each race includes racial traits that are common to members of that race. The following entries appear among the traits of most races. Ability score increase. Every race increases one or more of a character's ability scores. Age. The age entry notes the age when a member of the race is considered an adult, as well as the race's expected lifespan. This information can help you decide how old your character is at the start of the game. You can choose any age for your character, which could provide an explanation for some of your ability scores. For example, if you play a young or very old character, your age could explain a particularly low strength or constitution score, while advanced age could account for a high intelligence or wisdom. Alignment. Most races have tendencies towards certain alignments, described in this entry. These are not binding for player characters, but considering why your dwarf is chaotic, for example, in defiance of lawful dwarf society, can help you better define your character. Size. Characters of most races are medium, a size category including creatures that are roughly 4 to 8 feet tall. Members of a few races are small, between 2 and 4 feet tall, which means that certain rules of the game affect them differently. Come on over here, hun. Azrael likes hearing all this stuff too. He's all... Okay. The most important of these rules is that small characters have trouble wielding heavy weapons, as explained in Chapter 6. We got 2 little meta jargon things, and then we'll read about the dwarf. And then what I'm going to do is turn the camera off so it'll save as one video, and then I'll get in the elf to anybody who wants to hear that. So speed. Your speed determines how far your character can move when traveling and fighting. Languages. By virtue of your race, your character can speak, read, and write certain languages. Chapter 4 lists the most common languages of the D&D multiverse. Subraces. Some races have subraces. Members of a subrace have the trait of the parent race in addition to the traits specified for their subrace. Relationships among subraces vary significantly from race to race and world to world. In the Dragonlance campaign setting, for example, mountain dwarfs and hill dwarfs live together as different clans of the same people, but in the Forgotten Realms they live afar apart in separated kingdoms and call themselves shield dwarfs and gold dwarfs respectively. Okay, so now that we have the introduction to race, let's read about the dwarf. I'll read the little flavor text too with it. Dwarf. You're late, elf, came the rough edge of a familiar voice. Brianner Battlehammer walked up the back of his dead foe, disregarding the fact that the heavy monster lay on top of his elven friend. In spite of the added discomfort, the dwarf's long, pointed, often broken nose and gray streaked through still fiery red beard, came as a welcome sight to Dritz. Knew I'd find ye in trouble. I came out and looking for ye. R.A. Salvatore, the Crystal Shard. Kingdoms in ancient grandeur, halls carved into the roots of mountains, the echoing of picks and hammers in deep mines and blazing forges, a commitment to the clan and tradition, and a burning hatred of goblins and orcs. These common threads unite all dwarves. Short and stout, blond and hardy, dwarves are known as skilled workers, miners, and workers of stone and metal. Though they stand well under 5 feet tall, dwarves are so broad and compact they can weigh as much as a human standing nearly 2 feet taller. Their courage and endurance are also easily a match for any of the larger folk. Dwarven skin ranges from deep brown to a paler hue tinged with red, and the most common shades are light brown or deep tan, like certain tones of earth. Their hair, worn long but in simple styles, is usually black, gray, or brown. Though paler dwarves often have red hair, male dwarves value their beards highly and groom them carefully. Long memory, long grudges. Dwarves can live to be more than 400 years old, so the oldest living dwarf often remember a very different world. For example, some of the oldest dwarves living in Citadel Felbar in the world of Forgotten Realms can recall the day more than 3 centuries ago when orcs conquered the fortress and drove them into exile, an exile that lasted for 250 years. The longevity grants them a perspective on the world that short-lived races such as humans and halflings lacked. Dwarves are solid and enduring like the mountains they love, weathering the passage of centuries with stoic endurance and little change. They respect the traditions of their clans, tracing their ancestry back to the founding of their most ancient strongholds and the youth of the world, and don't abandon these traditions lightly. Part of those traditions is devotion to the gods of the dwarves, who uphold the dwarven ideals of industrious labor, skill in battle, and devotion to the forge. Individual dwarves are determined and loyal, true to their world, and decisive in action, sometimes to the point of stubbornness. Many dwarves have a strong sense of justice, and they are slow to forget wrongs they have suffered. A wrong done to one dwarf is a wrong done to the dwarf's entire clan. So what begins as one dwarf's hunt for vengeance can become a full-blown clan feud. Clans and kingdoms. Dwarven kingdoms stretch beneath the mountains, where the dwarf mine gems and precious metals and forge items of wonder. They love the beauty and ancestry of the precious metals and fine jewelry, and in some dwarves, this love festers into avarice. Whatever wealth they can find in their mountains, they gain through trade. They dislike boats, so enterprising humans and halflings frequently handle trade in dwarven goods along water routes. Trustworthy members of other races are welcome in dwarf settlements, though some areas are off limits even to them. The chief unit of dwarven society is the clan, and dwarves highly value Let me start that sentence over. The chief unit of dwarven society is the clan, and dwarves highly value social standing. Even dwarves who live far from their own kingdom cherish their clan identities and affiliations, recognizing related dwarves and invoke their ancestors' names in oaths and curses. To be clanless is the worst fate that can befall a dwarf. Dwarves in other lands are typically artisans, especially weaponsmiths, armorers, and jewelers. Some become mercenaries or bodyguards, highly sought after for their courage and loyalty. God, gold, and clan. Dwarves who take up the adventuring life might be motivated by a desire for treasure, for its own sake, for a specific purpose, or even out of an altruistic desire to help others. Other dwarves are driven by the command of inspiration of a deity, a direct calling, or simply a desire to bring glory to one of the dwarf gods. Clan and ancestry are also important motivators. A dwarf might seek to restore a clan's lost honor, avenge an ancient wrong the clan suffered, or earn a new place within the clan after having been exiled. Or a dwarf might research for the axe wielded by a mighty ancestor lost on the field of battle centuries ago. Slow to trust. Dwarves get along passably well with most other races. The difference between an acquaintance and a friend is about 100 years. As a dwarf saying that might be hyperbole, but certainly points to how difficult it can be for a member of a short-lived race like humans to earn a dwarf's trust. Elves. It's not wise to depend on elves. No telling what an elf will do next. When the hammer meets the orc's head, they're as apt to start singing as to pull out a sword. They're flighty and frivolous. Two things to be said for them, though. They don't have many smiths, but the ones they do very fine work. And when orcs or goblins come streaming down out of mountains, an elf's good to have at your back. Not as good as a dwarf, maybe, but no doubt they have the orcs as much as they hate the orcs as much as we do. We're reading the dwarf's perspective on these other races. Dwarf's perspective on halflings. Sure, they're pleasant folk, but show me a halfling hero. An empire, a triumphant army, even a treasure for the ages made by halfling hands. Nothing. How can you take them seriously? Dwarves on humans. You take the time to get to know a human, and by then the human's on her deathbed. If you're lucky, she's got kin, a daughter or granddaughter maybe, who's got hands and hearts as good as hers. That's when you can make a human friend and watch them go. They set their hearts on something, they'll get it. Whether it's a dragon's hoard or an empire's throne, you have to admit that kind of ambition or that kind of dedication, even if it gets them in trouble, or you have to admire that kind of dedication, even if it gets them in trouble more often than not. So then we got dwarf names. I'm going to skip that. Dwarf traits. So some quick traits about dwarves in the D&D world. Your dwarf character has an assortment of inborn abilities, part and parcel of dwarven nature. Ability score. Your constitution score increases by 2, so that makes you hardy. That's going to give you a little more hit points too. Age. Dwarves mature at the same rate as humans, but they are considered young until they reach the age of 50. On average, they live about 350 years. Alignment. Most dwarves are lawful, believing firmly in the benefits of a well-ordered society. They tend towards good as well, with a strong sense of fair play and a belief that everyone deserves to share in their benefits of a just order. Sizes. Dwarves stand between 4 and 5 feet tall and average about 150 pounds. Your size is medium. Speed. Your walking base is 25 feet. Your speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor. That's good, actually. Dark vision. Accustomed to life underground, you have superior vision in the dark and dim conditions. You can see dim light within 60 feet of you as if you were bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. You can discern color in darkness, you can't discern color in darkness, only shades of gray. Dwarven resilience. You have advantage on saving throws against poison. You have resistance against poison damage. Yeah, come over here and keep learning about dwarves with Daddy. You have proficiency with battle axe, hand axe, throwing hammer, and a war hammer. And we get to the elf next. We're going to turn the video off, and then we'll turn it back on and get to the elf. Say hi. Hey, we're learning about Dungeons and Dragons. You see? Okay, so tool proficiency. You gave proficiency with the artisan tools of your choice. Smith's tools, brewer supplies, or mason tools. Stone cunning. Whenever you make an intelligence check related to the origin of stonework, you are considered proficient in the history skill. And add double your proficiency bonus to check instead of your normal proficiency bonus. Languages. You can speak, read, and write Common and Dwarvish. Dwarvish is full of hard consonants and guttural sounds, and those characteristics spill over into whatever language a dwarf might speak. Subrace. 2 main subraces of dwarves populate the worlds of D&D. Hill Dwarf and Mountain Dwarfs. Choose one of the subraces. Hill Dwarf. As a Hill Dwarf, you have senses, deep intuition, and remarkable resilience. The dwarves of Furion and the mighty southern kingdom are Hill Dwarfs, as are the exiled Nadar and the debased Klar of Krian in the Dragonland setting. Ability score increase, so if you pick a Hill Dwarf, you get a wisdom score increases by 1. Dwarven toughness. Your maximum hit points increase by 1, and increases by 1 every time you gain a level. Ooh, that's really nice. I'm going to tell Mark about that. Mountain Dwarf. As a Mountain Dwarf, you're strong and hardy, accustomed to a difficult life and rugged terrain. You're probably on the tall side for a dwarf and tend towards lighter coloration. The Shield Dwarves of Northern Furion, as well as the ruling Hylar clan of the noble Dorwar clan of Dragonlance, are Mountain Dwarfs. So if you pick the Mountain Dwarf, your strength increases by 2. You have proficiency with light and medium armor. Okay. In the cities in the Underdark live the Durgar, or Grey Dwarves. These vicious, stealthy slave traders raid the surface world for captives, then sell the prey to other races of the Underdark. They have innate magical abilities to become invisible and to temporarily grow to giant size. They're not playable, but that's cool to know. I might use them. So, we had our introduction to race, and we learned about the dwarves. I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to turn this video off because I want this to end and be one video, and then I'm going to start a video about the elves. Thank you guys who are listening, and thanks for putting up with my neurosis. Peace, suckers.